My boyfriend and I had just broken up in a sophomore year of college. We'd been together since high school. It was messy, no contact and all. The whole experience left me emotionally drained. The summer of my junior year, instead of working an internship, I headed home. My mother ran a yoga studio and kayak rental on Miller's Creek. Her studio was a converted old cottage with winding steps leading to the pier. I gave kayak lessons to kids, assisted with yoga lessons, and so on. We were quite popular in town and also had a decent following on social media. One night, I logged into Instagram and found a bunch of notifications from a random account that had recently started following us. Water Baby 11 had liked and commented on every of the 200 or 300 pictures we had on our Insta. This itself was not odd. I get these random sometimes and don't pay too much attention. Their only motivation is to arouse your curiosity, so you'll follow them. This account had no pictures, no followers, even a profile image. The only account they followed was our studios. I assumed it was a kayak enthusiast like my mother and me. Didn't think too much of it. A few days later, my notifications were blowing up again. The afternoon had been particularly grueling. I'd taken a bunch of energetic summer camp kids out on the water. Water Baby 11 had gone on a posting spree. They had uploaded pictures of me to the Instagram, taken at various points in the day, and tagged me in each. Me adjusting a kid's posture, me sipping a Starbucks, me holding open my car door. The caption said things like, "Lucky kid, I wish I was the coffee cup." The pictures themselves looked grainy, as if they had been taken from a distance and then zoomed and cropped. The experience completely spooked me. I showed the post to my mother, but didn't immediately block the account. We needed the screenshots if things got worse. Mom was super concerned. We talked for a long time that night, wondering how to proceed. I decided, for my own sanity, to work in the studio for the next few days and assist with the yoga lessons. One of the other associates could take over the kayak lessons. I had also drive to and from work with my mother, just to be safe. A few days passed. One evening, as my mother and I were closing up for the night, I saw a shadow at the window. "Someone's here," I told my mother. She stuck her head out the door and checked both sides. There was no one. When we headed out into the parking lot, I distinctly heard my name being called. My mother heard it too. When we reached our car, we saw something flapping on the windshield. Tucked under the wiper was a neon orange A4 paper. It had a series of grainy pictures of me from that morning printed on it. Scrolled across the top in black Sharpie were the words, "I miss you." My mother drove us to the nearest police station. The police registered our complaint and also kept the printout as evidence. I told them about the Instagram stalking. The cops said our best recourse was to contact Instagram to see if we could trace the IP address of whoever had been posting my pictures. We returned home from the police station, mentally and emotionally drained. I had just reached when I get a text from my ex-boyfriend. "I'm disappointed." "Why?" I texted back. "You forgot my birthday." I checked the date. Indeed I had. Today was July 13th. His birthday had been a couple of days earlier. "Belated happy birthday. My bad," I started typing, though I didn't really feel that bad. We had broken up a few months ago and decided to go no contact. No contact means no random texts, no birthday messages, right? Then he wrote something that sent my mind racing. "Your water baby is a year older and wiser, hopefully." Heh. Something clicked in that moment as my mind raced. His zodiac sign was Cancer. Cancer was a water sign. His birthday was on July 11th. He was water baby 11. But wasn't he supposed to be in Seattle for his internship? Nah, he replied. I decided to return home too. I cut off communications with my ex right after, blocked him everywhere. Then he started showing up outside of the studio. My mother and I went back to the cops. My ex readily admitted that he had been stalking me. His excuse? He loved me way too much. He was so convincing, even the cops suggested I drop my complaint. I didn't. His behavior had left me feeling nervous about every man, every relationship, and that's never a good place to be. I was working in a small IT consulting company a few years ago. This place was located in Adams Morgan, in Washington, D.C., close to the hip happening places. The office itself was a large loft space with an open plan. My coworkers now were young. We had the time and energy to devote to the projects, and best of all, we became friends outside of the work too. In the summer of 2006, we hired a new batch of interns, sophomores from local universities, IT kids, super smart. That first week was tasked with onboarding the interns. It was my job to make sure they knew their way around the office. The first few days, the interns and I spent a lot of time in the only conference room in the office, going over stuff. Meanwhile, my regular work was piling up, and I had to work late to catch up. The second week, I noticed one of them, Ty, was staying in the office longer than the other employees, hanging on till 6 p.m. Very hard working, I thought. One evening, Ty came to talk to me before he left. You work too hard, he told me. Let me take you out for drinks. I refused, saying some other time. I was still finishing up and I didn't want to take the work home. After he left, around 6:30 p.m., I heard the office printer whir to life. The sudden sound made me jump. There was no one in the office but me. I definitely hadn't fired a print job, but sometimes printers have queued jobs that fire at random times, so I didn't think anything of it. The next day, when I arrived, there was a bunch of papers on my desk. I looked through them and my horror grew. Each of the pictures was an ASC2 art. ASC2 art is pictures created from the letters on your computer keyboard. The pictures had the following letters repeated: N, I, N, A. In short, they spelled my name Nina. There were 14 such pictures. I felt like throwing up, but composed myself. I had to dial in for our weekly call with the client, but throughout the call, I looked at the papers over and over. I noticed there was no cover sheet. The way things are set up in my office, when someone prints a document, a cover sheet with the employee's name also prints. After the call, I checked with my coworkers if anyone had left the pictures on my desk. No one had. I went to Lane, our IT admin, if he could figure out who had fired the printer. He looked through the network records, scratched his head. The records showed the print job was fired from Lane's network admin account. He said he hadn't created the art or set out to spook me. I believed him. I'd gotten to know him reasonably well in the last couple of years, as we'd worked together, gone out for beers as a group to celebrate project wins, never crossed any lines. I trashed the artwork and tried to put the incident out of my mind. Ty continued to ask me out. I was so freaked out by the incident. Going out was the last thing on my mind. Besides, he was a few years younger, practically a kid. A few days later, something weird happened again. I arrived at work to find a thin package wrapped in my pretty pink wrapping paper. I opened it, and there's a CD inside. My heart started hammering. One part of me knew I would regret putting the CD on, but another part of me wanted to know what was on it. I slid the CD into my CD drive to listen. It had the ABBA song Nina, Pretty Ballerina on repeat, a hyper-personalized playlist, if you will. Every few days there was a new gift, a soap carved into a doll with the note, "Think of me when you use this." By now, my suspicions were squarely on Ty, though I couldn't exactly say why. The IT department looked through the office entry records at my request. Whenever I got these quote-unquote gifts on my desk, Ty had arrived in the office before me. But then, he arrived early and left after everyone almost every day. Didn't prove a thing. I spoke to my manager and told him my suspicions about Ty. He said without any proof we couldn't confront Ty. However, he could ensure I wouldn't have to work with him or interact with him if I didn't want to. It was awkward in the office for the rest of the summer till the interns worked with us. The gifts stopped arriving once the interns left. A couple of years later, Ty reached out to my manager, saying he was looking for a full-time position. Thankfully, my boss put the kibosh on that. None of us wanted that weird and scary summer on repeat.